You're on UPfront with me, Blessed Sogah, again. And once more, many would have thought that the conversation on the National Cathedral project is settled after the NDC administration pointed out that it is no longer a priority in terms of project. But today, we here at Joy News are learning some further details about possibly what might be happening to this controversial project. We are being told by the architects of the National Cathedral project that the project is simply on hold and not dead, in the words of Sir David Adjaye, who is the architect who put up the edifice in terms of its blueprints for the very first time, and has been speaking and giving a bit of details on what he thinks about the project, the controversy surrounding it, and how he feels that Ghanaians misunderstood this project, which he says could bring significant revenue to the Republic of Ghana. But the pictures you're seeing on the screens now is what's left of the substantive amounts, over 50 million cedis, which has been sunk into this project with little or no work done, according to the view of many Ghanaians who've been asking questions as to what next might happen to the National Cathedral project. The Board of Trustees have not given us a clear indication of what the next steps will be. But in the words of Sir David Adjaye, it appears that this project has value. It's restocking the whole national conversation around the project. I want you to first of all listen to this podcast that's been granting an interview on, and what he thinks about the project and the fact that it's not dead, it's just on hold.
I keep thinking, okay, this administration might just want to trash it, but I think there was a lot of misunderstanding because the process was private in a way. It was government, but it was private. So I think there's a sense with this administration of really understanding what is going on. It may not be their priority, but it is definitely a national project. Love or hate it, there's something about this project which has activated a sense of urgency about the infrastructure that's required. So we know that this administration is carefully making sure that they have done their forensic examination of this so that they can say whether they think there are bad practices or good practices. So far, it has passed its tests, but we know that they're still carrying on with forensic testing. But in the meantime, it's on pause. It's just on pause.
It's not as if it's a straightforward cathedral project.
What's really funny to me is that we called it the Cathedral project, but I was surprised when people really thought that, why is David doing a cathedral? If you know anything about what I do and how I work, typologies are opportunities to understand and frame the 21st century through the lens of the past, but also a way to bring the future into the present, bring future ideas into the present. So the cathedral is really a cultural infrastructure. This is a country which is very much spiritually focused. So we've used that as the platform to create an event center, a gathering space for the nation, community gardens. There hasn't been a garden since Nkrumah made independence. New sort of 15-acre gardens, a couple of acres, it's 15-acre site, few acres of garden space in front of it for the community. But then to create museums, school teaching, so it's a school of music, teaching, the first theological library of African Christianity. Everybody says Christianity is a colonial religion. It isn't, actually. It's a global religion, and it has its roots that come through that. And yes, they were missionaries, but Christianity also had different intersections into the country, and people just don't know that. Museums, libraries, archives, teaching are part of what this entire infrastructure is. It's for me, and also activating art. In the body of the commission is a diagram to commission. We've got about 35 West African diaspora and local artists who were commissioned to work across the entire project. So for me, it was also a museum. It was a museum of the present. So the idea was that this is an opportunity for a country where maybe we don't have the capacity to build 20 different projects, to build what I call a kind of condenser that opens the opportunity to citizens to see what these opportunities could do and where we could. You don't know what you don't know until you see it.
There's not a single. Christianity is multiform.
Plural in the most beautiful way for me. So there is Ghanaian Christianity, which is very different to Nigerian Christianity, and in that Ghanaian Christianity there are multiple strands. There's obviously Catholicism, Church of England. Those are one set of things. So it is a huge multiplying, almost I think fractalizing leaf pattern parts that you need to understand. It's really a cathedral for the dominant religions. It's not chosen because somebody likes Christians more than Muslims. It's just for the dominant religion that is in the country, but a platform not to just celebrate the religion, but to understand it. And then to see the impact that, the sort of edification that can happen from what that thing is, rather than just looking at it and accepting it. The other thing that happens is that there has been an incredible document that I've been privileged to understand, which is one of the reasons why I took on the project, is that people think that general tourism is the revenue that is important to nations. Actual specific tourism, which is to do with religion or events or all these other things, are the real incubator generators that regenerate cities, add another calendar element. There's a reason why Freeze happens in October. Episodic events that are specifically about certain professions or certain cultural points are the real garlands of the economy that you want. And in West Africa, before art, because it's new, the biggest revenue generator is religion. And I laugh at people, there's like 1 billion churches. Why do you think there are 1 billion churches? It's the biggest revenue generator. So this is a win-win for the government, and the government understood it. It's not just a cathedral just to go and just worship. It is that. It's absolutely that. But it is also a way to consolidate and to concentrate and to elevate something that's already happening on the ground in a really profound way. So if you don't know West Africa, you don't understand why this building topology is incredibly important. It might not be in the West. You have so many churches, but they were built in a singular way, built a few hundred years ago, and they served a certain purpose. Churches now, if you go to churches in West Africa, they are universities, they're academies. It's where people are learning. They're hybridized. So we're learning from this on-the-ground hybridization and consolidated into a national monument, which we believe would be a massive employment and economic generator, but also a cultural edifier.
That's right. Question as to why there are so many churches in West Africa, he says, pointing out to how they've become a source of generating income, as he's pointing out there in that podcast. It's stoking the conversation again about the future of the National Cathedral project. What do you personally think about this? Because we've been asking many people and some of our followers online ahead of this program here on the Joy News platform. Take a look at this. 75.4% of Ghanaians, at least our followers, are giving us a sense of what they think about the National Cathedral project, because we pointed out upon coming on air that the architect of the National Cathedral, Sir David Adjaye, has pointed out that the project is not dead. It's just on hold, he says. Should the National Cathedral project be revived? That's the question we're asking. See what some Ghanaians think about this online, as that poll is still running as of now. 75.4% of them as of now, just giving us a sense of what they think. We're not saying in its entirety that this will be the final results, but you see the trend at the start of the polls giving you a sense that lots of people still have some resentment against the project. You now have some people who still believe that it should go on, but they're in the minority, 16.9% there, and a few more people, 6.8%, they're about saying they're neutral about the project. They don't care if it continues or is grounded by this government. But what should happen going into the future? That's the question we're asking, and let me explore that by bringing in our guest helping us to do the discussion for tonight, Reverend Dr. Fred Digby is the former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. He's joining us via Zoom. Adam Sinanu is Chairperson of the Advocates for Christ. Then we have lawyer Wayo Ganamanti, who's the 2024 Vice Presidential candidate of the Convention People's Party. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Reverend Digby, let me start off with you, because you once served as a leading figure of the Christian community, an executive, obviously. And at the time the project was starting, you were exiting your executive role, at the Christian Council of Ghana. But with this comment he's passing, saying that, look, why do we even have so many churches? It's raking in a lot of revenue, he says. And that's why he believes that this business module, quote unquote, of the National Cathedral would succeed. So should the project continue, in your view? And kindly unmute for us so we can hear the points you're sharing with us.
Thank you, Blessed, for the opportunity to share. As you rightly said, I was exiting when this issue of the cathedral came up. And some of the things that has been shared on this podcast were not part of the discussions that we had when I was there. What we knew at that time was that we're doing a 5,000-seater cathedral or auditorium to be patronized or funded by Christians. And even the council was not too sure because they were questioning who served on the trustees and who had appointed them. So it was quite an ambivalent thing for the council, but we could not stop it because the president said the Lord God had made a promise to God that he was going to do it. So we were being invited to witness what God would do through his servant who promised that he will build a cathedral for him. So we went along, said, yes, this is what you want to do. Our job as a council was to pass this vision on to the followers, and anybody who was willing to be part of it would patronize it. Some of the things that were being said or have been said today and have been said subsequently were not part of the frame of reference we had, at least when I was serving as a Christian Council General Secretary. So I'm unable to comment on those ones and whether the council actually interrogated them and talked about the commercial and the tourist purposes. They are not things that I have any views about as a council representative at that time.
Yeah. But now we have hindsight. The architect behind the project says, look, a lot of Ghanaians are not seeing through in terms of the immense benefit this should be for the country, because he says it could generate more revenue for the country.
If it is, where are the figures? Where's the data? What shows? Where are the projections? What do we have to show that that is what it's about? And how much is it going to cost? What's the return on investment? There are a number of questions that, excuse me to say, rational Ghanaians will ask. So if it's a project, what's the feasibility of this project? What's the data? So that's what we want to know. I don't think that anybody has come up to show us the data of how this is going to benefit the country. Maybe we've seen or heard the dark side of it. We haven't heard the glowing thing that he's saying that happened elsewhere. Maybe if we saw that and we know who is going to finance it, if we understood clearly some of the debts that have been incurred, how they will be defrayed, if some of the things that are agitating people's mind can be addressed, as your survey shows, scientific or unscientific as it may be, about 75% of Ghanaians are still ambivalent about this. Now, if people will come from somewhere to come and see what we are doing, aren't we Ghanaians particularly interested in what is happening in our backyard? If it is so lucrative, let me throw this in. You go to Israel, not many of the Israelis are Christians, but there are artifacts there, and they know it brings a lot of income because of tourism, and they support it. Their attitude is that of a polite welcome to the tourists who come because they know they are bringing them income. But if 75% of our people are still ambivalent about it, then the trustees or whoever is the promoters of this have a lot more work to do for its acceptability in Ghana, marketability, and above all, the funding for it to continue to completion.
Yeah, if I listen to him right, it appears he's looking at the empirical evidence, the fact that there are so many churches in West Africa, he says, quote and unquote, and he says, why do you feel there are so many churches there? It appears the churches are making money now, in his view, and that should be a business case for him.
It may be so. I've gone to Canaan Land, I've gone to the one near Badagry, but those are funded by the denominations. If Oyedepo says he's building for his people, he's building. If the one near the Badagry Lagos Road, it is privately funded. So it's not something that somebody says we are doing it and therefore the federal government should build it. I don't think that happens. Now, what has been done by Pentecost, I believe in scale, is bigger than what we are talking about, at least in terms of land size. What has been done on the mountains by Kodesh, in terms of land size, is bigger than what we are talking about in Accra. So there are churches that are building things that are bigger than what we are talking about now. So who is funding them? Where is the funding coming from? And who is the one who is promoting them? So I think those are the germane issues that need to come and inform this conversation. That is why when the president said they're going to order a forensic audit, I said, there we go again, audit upon audit upon audit. If a church is doing its own activities, they may have their own audit. It's an internal audit.
Yeah.
They can sanction whoever has, as they say in Ghana, chop the money or misspend the money. They have a lot of free voluntary activities. People carry blogs. They do anything to make sure that the project is cost effective, least cost effective. You get the professionals who sponsor these things, making sure that it stays within the budget. This one, we stand by, fold our arms, and see it done to the highest level. No expenses spared, because it's up to international or global standard for tourists to come and see. So there's a difference. There are still big churches in West Africa, but they are done by the owners of those buildings. And I can tell you that they take good care of them because they own it. They own part of the dream and they take care of it. I've been to these places. You get volunteers running up and down, lawyers, scholars, church members, cleaning the toilets, doing all of that at no cost to the government or anybody. That is the difference as far as I see in West Africa.
The only difference now is that we've committed quite a substantial amount of money, and many people are asking questions. Let's bring in Adam as well, and also take his thoughts on this. Reverend, I'll get to you shortly.
All right.
And of course, Adam, for you double as a member of the citizens movement against corruption, and then you are also with the Advocates of Christ. So it gives you a fine balance as a Christian, looking through this project through the prism of corruption or anti-corruption as well. Should we commit more funds? At least now the architect says it's not dead; it's just on pause.
Well, thank you very much, Blessing. I'm not quite sure why we should run with what the architect is saying. And I think that Reverend Dr. Adjaye, and good evening to him, set the context. When this thing started, our understanding was that this is something of faith for Christians. And so in our minds, this is something that once it appeals, and I was one of those who said in terms of the concept, I always supported the concept. But in terms of the design and the rollout, the execution had a lot of problems, because I thought, let's estimate what is realistic. Let's cut our coat according to our size. Let's phase it so that it's in smart phases that can be delivered and then begin to generate resources to feed into the next phase. I don't think we should be following what the architect is saying. I think that we need to review the entire project altogether. And even if it is to proceed, it has to be something that is properly established within the context of what a Christian community would want to do, what it can raise resources for, and phased appropriately. I think that would be a much better approach. So in terms of the concept, the original concept, where it was about a place for persons of faith to be supported by the Christian community, but when it began to take a new shape, they started bringing in state funding. That took away the original intention as far as some of us were concerned.
There's an individual who went to court earlier this year, and the response from the Attorney General is that, look, in terms of the financial requirements, Article 179 has been met. Does that not point to the fact that at least something prudent was done at the start of the project?
Well, you need to break that down some more. What does that really mean in terms of, you see, you have stakeholders. The stakeholders they began with, we had a certain conceptualization of what it was we wanted to achieve. If down the line you bring other persons in, and in my mind I said, look, if you start taking state resources, which include Muslims, Buddhists, traditionalists, then it's not really the same. If it's about the Christian faith, allow the Christians to be the key stakeholders, get us to sit together, let's think through what is feasible and work at that. And I don't want, in my mind, we should have just designed something that we were clear in our minds. Historically, we are able to raise this amount of money to support this kind of building for this purpose. So as long as, whether or not the state funding was justified or not, does not take away the fact that now we have changed the concept. It means that the level of commitment and interest that initial stakeholders would have had, it has now changed, because now we have no real ownership to the extent of other people contributing to it. So everybody has a say.
In terms of disclosures, what kind of disclosures would government be making to us now? Because we're not too clear if this is solely private in nature or otherwise. At least there's a trust.
I guess that is why the president is saying, because, over time, we've had different stories from different groups. One group insists that something has gone wrong. The group in charge says that no, nothing wrong. We've been audited. Everything is honky-dory. What that then means is that we have two different reports on the same issue. I'm not too surprised, therefore, that the president is saying, you know what, let's have clarity on the real status. I guess it is after that kind of assessment that maybe we'll now have some understanding of where exactly this project stands at the moment and what could be salvaged if we are moving ahead with it.
Okay, let me hear from lawyer Ganamanti. The point about legal implications for the country, at least we've expended some funds, and the issues of accountability on one side, but also contractual obligations. How much of a burden do you feel the state will be taking on? The more we delay this contract and the more things do not move forward. Some are really scared that we may be incurring some more implications legally. Do you feel same? Can you hear me, Council? Kindly unmute so we can hear the point you're sharing with us, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir, yes.
Yeah, so like you said, let me say.
We seem to have...
Good evening to your cherished viewers and then the earlier speakers. And whilst it drags, we all know that there will be some additions when it comes to expenditure. Already, some huge sums of monies have been expended by the state. And I was looking at even the architect's fee in some of the designs. And you could see that basically this will inure to people who have to get in more funds. So if you are inquiring whether or not we are going to be saddled as a nation with extra will be.
Yeah, obviously we might be incurring some debt there, as the point you're trying to make there. We'll get back to you due to your connection. But Reverend Adjaye, I just want to come back to you on the point about how much of clarity we need from even Christendom now, because the clergy is not being collective in their position on this matter, as whether or not the project should be moving forward. Or government should be committing much more to it. The president is giving us his position on this. He says, looking at the times in which we find ourselves, we can't commit more state resources to this. Why are we not getting that collective front in terms of the positioning from the Christian community on what should happen to this project?
Well, I believe we have not had a general body of Christians meeting, if I may call a Christian AGM, to decide what we must be doing with the cathedral as it stands now. Because he who pays the piper calls the tune. Yeah. So there's no single group that has agreed that they are owning this. Because if from the beginning we know that the Christians are doing it, then how much does it cost? And with even the passing of time, we know it is our project. So if the things are increasing, we know what we ought to do. Now, we don't know. So what are we supposed to agree on? All these things that are being said, two different accounts, the forensic account, the forensic. Now, what are we specifically asking the government of Ghana to do? To take the money of the Ghana government and build it and finish it? Is that what Christendom is asking the government of Ghana to do? The last time I heard the Christian Council General Secretary speak, he said the same thing, that he would not say this is a priority or must be a priority for the government, looking at the times in which we are. So it is embarrassing for everybody, including me, to see that whole pit there. But how do we finish it? Do we scale it down and do what we can do and start worshiping in it, or do something else about it? I think that's a conversation we haven't had yet. If the trustees or whoever has a mandate to call us all together, if we can agree to do something about it, we should do it. But to ask the government to finish this, I am not sure we are being realistic. In a country with multi-ethnic, multi-religious faiths, whether that would be the right thing for us to do.
Yeah, but if you're looking at the demographics, we still are in the majority in terms of the Christian population, which means that, and I'm just guessing at this point, the Ghanaians may not necessarily have a challenge if the president decides to continue with the project, is it? It's a place of worship. At least.
Let me just play your game back to you.
Yeah.
If we are in the majority,
yeah,
and you started polling people,
yeah,
then you saw the polls. 16% say they care about it.
Yeah.
75% are opposed to it.
Yeah.
2% or 5%. You've taken the poll off. So you are getting the feedback from those who are polling.
Yeah.
If we're that committed to it as Christians, we should get 90% of the people saying, oh, government, forget about it, we'll do it. I believe there are Christians in this country, if they are minded to build this cathedral and they are convinced that we are on the right trajectory, they can build it. But it's because we are not too sure where it's going, who owns it, whose dream it is, what the purpose is. That's why we're dragging our feet. Ghana may be poor, forgive me, but there are people in this country who will be able to do that if they are convinced. That's why I was pointing out to you that there are buildings bigger than this in terms of land size, scope, capacity, that already exists, built by single denominations. So why can't we, as a national group, or coming together as a nation, if the 70% is anything to go by, build this? If you are convinced that the 400 or 500 million is what it truly costs, and the benefits that are being extolled by the architect is what we will all benefit for the country and for the Christian world or for the whole world at large. We can't do it if we have that conversation and are convinced about it.
The land itself is within a prime area. Converting it now, because that idea has been floated, that, look, some international organizations have expressed interest in it. At some point, we understand that the plan, according to the 24-hour policy document, is to convert it into a center of cultural exchange. I mean, all of these ideas have been floated around. Will converting it be spiritually and morally right, in your view?
You see, this is where I go back to the consultation I remember with the Christian Council. We felt that even if it's a good idea to have a cathedral, we doubted whether the location was good enough, because the Christian Council offices, as you know, was not far from that place. When the stadium state functions, that place is jammed. And we had stadium disaster and all kinds of things. Would that be the place to squeeze this? But they had the arguments lined up. You see, this is a predetermined project with a predetermined site coming to inform you about what the government or what the leader has determined, promised God that he's going to do. It wasn't open for discussion. So now, what's the question? What do we do with that site? Are we going to excavate it and throw it away? Are we going to convert it? Who's going to make that decision? And what contract has been signed with the architect? Remind you, there are, as we talk, we are just talking, excuse me to say, we are just talking, but there are legal documents. The dotted line, the fine prints are there. And one day they may pop up and we see that this talking didn't amount to anything. It just amounted to delaying and getting judgment debt and getting some more things slammed on us. We say, wow, did we go or did we come whilst we are arguing about this? So the earlier we got that forensic audit and decided what we're going to do as a national project, the president takes initiative and says clearly what he thinks. He's a Christian. This is what I see. This is what I've been advised to do. I've called the trustees. We cannot go on. We can go on. How do we finance it? Let's take this shame away from us and do something that is respectable, that befits the dignity of Ghana, and not leave this in the middle of the city, scaffolded and left it there for mosquitoes and other things to take over the city.
Adam, do you see a difficulty on the part of the president? He's Christian himself, and he's indicated that, well, look, he's not necessarily against this project, except to say that the timing is wrong. Do you see President John Dramani Mahama being tied into this project? The fact that, well, he's helpless because he's Christian, first of all.
No, I don't think that he's in any way conflicted. I'm not quite sure what you are trying to put across. I think that the decision he's taking is the most appropriate. Let's first have an assessment of where this thing stands and understand the nature of the commitments that we have made as a country. He's already put out the fact that at this time, given the many very major issues we have to tackle, this is not likely to be a priority. And I can understand that. You see, let's remember that where we started, for many of us, it was about the Christian community mobilizing. And in my head at the time, I thought that we would try and make sure that we're tying what we could raise to whatever we put on the ground, etc. There will be some measure of, alignment between what we project is potentially what can be raised to what kind of structure. And even if you're going to pick an architect or use a design, it also must fit into what we know is realistic. I don't think the president is in any way constricted or conflicted because he's a Christian. I think that the principles are still the same. They've come into office. They need an assessment to understand the current status of things. On the back of that, they have to take a decision. In my mind, if I were in his seat, certainly looking at the best, scaling down to something that is pragmatic and rethinking the sources of funding. If it is Christian, in my view, limit it to the Christians and what they can do. And if that means that some of the land should be retooled for other development projects, perhaps that's the way to go. And I'm quite sure with the kind of appreciation that land has, if one had to rethink what to do, you probably could still save any losses that have been made. So
I was just asking the question earlier because of the possible political, moral suasion that may come into play here. There are some clergymen who are so passionate about this project. In fact, they feel regardless of the cost, it must be allowed to proceed. That may militate in some way against what the president plans to do. So if that pressure is coming through from even some clergymen who believe that, look, it ought to go ahead regardless, that may create some difficulty for the president, who's also mindful about the possible impact on the political fortunes of his party.
Well, I guess that one of the ways to resolve that is to do a stakeholder engagement in just the same way that you've done a poll, and the poll tells you what the majority of people are thinking. Really, that's all that it takes. The president just needs to find out what is it that the majority of key stakeholders believe should be done. And so that it's not about his personal decision. To the extent that he has an assessment, the assessment tells you this is where we are. You do a projection as to what can realistically be done. If you don't have the resources to cover what it was that they set out to do initially, you simply don't have those resources, and then you fall within what is available. If it is a case that even with that, you don't have the resources under this tenure to do it, the president can still say, look, the majority say we should proceed, but we don't have those resources, so it will have to wait for somebody else's tenure. It's as simple as that. I don't think that there should be anything complicated for the president to be able to handle.
Do you see politics playing into all of this? The fact that it was started by a different president who says it was a personal pledge, by the way.
I don't think so because of where it started. I mean, it started as something going to God. The president says so, but because there was some engagement of the Christian community and political class, no. Anything that has a religious base, you need to be cautious. So I think that whoever is at the helm of affairs is more likely to think through the constituencies, knowing that Christians are 71.3%. You want to be very cautious and make sure that the sentiments of the majority of Christians especially are taken on board as you chart a way forward.
Lawyer Ganamanti, let me try again to see if your line is okay now, because you are building the point about the law and possibly what the implications might be for the country if this is not handled well, because there's a contractual agreement with some entities as well, possibly including Sir David Adjaye himself. And I hope you can hear me this time round, sir. Yeah, he's unable to hear us. Moving on, Reverend Adjaye, the point about now handing over this project entirely to Christendom, we've seen some key figures as board of trustees walk out of that trusteeship, very key figures who are very influential in the space as well. These persons would have provided some sort of private support for the project, but for the decision that they've taken. So if the president says, well, I'm going to leave this solely to the clergy or the Christian community to handle, do you feel we'll be able to raise enough funds for the project, knowing that some Christian leaders have walked out of the package?
Well, I believe those who walked out and they stated their reasons. And I think that is part of the reason for the challenges that we are facing now. The issue stated by those who walked out had to do with transparency, accountability, and in the long run, probably the scope of the project. So you are invited to be part of something and you hear one thing, then you hear other things and you possibly ask questions. I'm not a member of the board of trustees, so I cannot say definitely what they heard. So they may have heard certain things that agitated them. For two of them, they said they were looking for an audit before they could continue. Let's also remember that it was probably the same Christian group. Honorable Samuel Kujatua Blakwa, I guess he's a Christian. They are some of the people who raised the storm and ran us into all of these things. Were they doing it because they are anti-Christian or because they are opposed to a cathedral being built? I am not sure that was the reason. The reason was that they thought that there were things that were not clear. They were seeking clarity, and they wanted straightforward answers to what was being done, so that anybody who wanted to be part of this would be part of it. So when those answers were not coming, some of the leaders felt, I cannot be part of this thing that is not very clear where we are going. My conscience will not permit me to be part of a trustee board. I can ask questions, I do not get clear-cut answers. I don't know where the funding is coming from. My church members are asking me, the councils are asking. So let me just step aside. Now, if there are some left, and again, let me go to what the president said. There's a forensic audit, and it shows clearly that there was no malfeasance. We are on course. This is it. We can do it. And then those leaders come and appeal to us. You see, all that has been said. The air has been cleared. The audit has cleared us. Brothers and sisters, let's get up. This is our proposal. Let's scale down the project. We take this. We'll do this and this phase. They may have the public on their side to contribute whatever we can to do what needs to be done. So it's all a matter of leadership, communication, transparency, and people feeling they can support this in good conscience to build a house that honors God. But if there are doubts and questions, then they may not do it because they don't want to be part of a racket or something that is not transparent.
How much work do we need from the trusteeship now, knowing that at least they've come out with their position, saying that, look, we've carried out our own audit, and the audit is pointing out to us that we're doing quite a clean job in terms of transparency, or managing the funds at least?
If I may just ask the obvious question,
yeah.
What then would be the need for the president to ask for a forensic audit? Is it because he is not satisfied? He is the president of our country. He knows things I do not know. I don't know whether he's read the contract. He may have read it. I don't know. So there must be a reason for the president, who has such a massive support in being voted into power, who is a Christian, who said he has nothing against a cathedral, yeah, ordering forensic audit. So I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if auditors are supposed to do work that can stand the test of time, that will clear the air. whatever problems he had with the first and the second one, this one, ordered by the government, and you see the trustees were saying when they did the audit, they were not asked the questions, no management letters came, they didn't respond to it. If all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and this is the document that comes out, then the trustees can say, we did our own, we ordered our own, it came, we were not satisfied, another one came, we're not satisfied. This is a government ordered one, we answered all the questions. Yeah. This is where we stand.
Is it not taking too long? I'm talking about that because of the possible case of inflation. And now you have the contracts perhaps being priced in USD because of the international agreements and all of that. By the time we're done with this forensic audit, I wouldn't be surprised to find the cost scaling up again.
Better late than never. You see, the name of the game is evidence, it's transparency, it's the goodwill of the people. Okay, so if the thing is shrouded in mystery and we don't know it, people will not be willing to support it. But if after waiting, we even incur cost, it will be just cost that was caused by the delay coming from the auditing. That's the way I see it. And I don't think that in itself will be defeating the purpose of the project. But if it's shrouded in mystery, that rather would defeat the scope of the project and its forward march. Yeah,
lots of questions emerging. Lawyer Ganamente has something burning he had wanted to say, except that the connection wasn't too clear. Let's try and see if the connection to him is better now. And you were just making the point earlier about a possibility of some liabilities on the part of the country in terms of costs when it comes to the contractual agreements. Lawyer Ganamente.
Yes.
Yes. I can hear you.
So
yes.
I think we all agree that as the years go by, definitely building materials will also have to go up. So whatever contractual sum we have, the figure we are working with now, like the previous speakers are alluding to, whether they were inflated, whether a forensic audit will give us those figures eventually will go up as the years go by. Yeah. And the question is that, are these going to be extra expenses by the state Ghana? And that is where the problem is. My greatest concern is that this was President Akufo-Addo's desire to build a cathedral for the Lord. I don't think that was President John Mahamed's wish. So let's begin as a country to even go back to the drawing board and ask the question. If President Akufo-Addo wanted to build a cathedral for the Lord, did President Mahama, in his quest to lead this country, also think of building a house for the Lord? If that is not what it is, then basically we should begin to take a second look at this matter.
Yeah, but don't you feel that where the project is now, it has gained some sort of national recognition, maybe?
I mean, the national recognition that it has gained will still be enhanced if what the Rev is saying is given a second thought. For instance, he equally says that the Christian community in this country are ready. People are ready to fund this project. And I can assure you, if the Christian community in this country, all the multiple dominions, all the groups begin to say that let's decide to do this on our own and see how the state Ghana can add on to. When that posture is taken, like he said, there are well-meaning people who put up funds. And these churches have partners. I mean, the Catholic Church is linked to Vatican. How much money can Vatican give? The Church of England, Pentecost, Presby, and all these groups. So at the end of the day, if it is not President Mahamed's vision to build a house for the Lord, let's look at it and then let's redirect it. That can the Christian community decide to take the project on? And then at a certain point, adding on to what you have just told the nation, that it has taken a national character. When we get to a certain point, then the nation Ghana can now come in and say, okay, fine. The Christian community themselves have been able to raise 70%, 80%. The state Ghana can come on board and top up the 20% and get it done.
For now, the president has commissioned a forensic audit into the whole project. If it comes out clean, would you be the first to contribute to say support the project?
I mean, the initial campaign that the former administration put out there that all Ghanaians should support. If you have 10 cities, you can support. If you have 1,000 cities, you can support. If you have 10,000, you can support. If it gets to that level, why not? But let's begin to understand that continuity of projects, national projects, is clear that we must continue project as a state. This particular one, where I sit, the reason why I want us to decouple it, because coming from the CPP, it's not the CPP's manifesto that we want to build a house for the Lord. So even if we are saddled with it and we come into government, we still have to ask questions that, do we need more schools? Do we need more clinics? Are our women giving birth on the floors? Do we have beds in the hospitals? So this is the question. If President Mohammed's vision is not to build a house for the Lord, it must not be somebody's vision that must be thrust upon his neck. And I agree with the Reverend the Reverend saying that if we want to open up who owes what, then we are making a progress. So whether the forensic audit will give us a figure where the state Ghana can now come in and assume the entire responsibility. Look at what Architect Adjaye is saying. He's now moving the whole thing into commerce. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo's vision was to build a house for the Lord. When in those days, God ordered the people of Israel to build a house, and David wanted to build it, and God said no. Solomon will come and build it. At the end of the day, the issue is that it was for a purpose, a holy ground. Now look at what Adjaye is saying. We are going to have gardens, we are going to increase commerce. This particular location, where are we going to have the gardens? This location, if you put the edifice there, which land will be left for us to have that ambience of commercial revenue that Adjaye is trying to picture? So at the end of the day, it was President Akufo-Addo's vision to build a house for the Lord. Fantastic. He couldn't get to do it. President Mahama, for me, as a politician, I've never heard him say that he has been visited by the Lord to build a house for the Lord. It doesn't matter whether...
Would you be surprised if the president changes his mind to okay the project or resurrect it, to just say, let's allow it to go ahead?
Let's allow it to go. Then now it comes to how much is the nation Ghana going to foot in building such an edifice. Already look at the figures we are talking about. Yeah. And I've already said that how long can we stay as a nation for our women to be giving birth and newborns are on the floor because we don't have beds? We have Agenda 111, which is going to give us district hospitals. We want to do politics and not build those hospitals. How many of our children are still writing on their bellies? Some of your reporters, Joy FM, your reporters, go and do good work and bring results that children in this country are still writing on their belly. So if after the forensic, President Mahama all of a sudden thinks that this has become his vision, I'll be very much surprised, because you see, what I'm simply saying is that if President Akufo-Addo was constructing a road and he didn't finish and another government come, continuity is good. This particular project is different. It was somebody's vision that I have been told by the Lord to.
I get that. Point well made there by lawyer Wayo Ganamenti. Let me take your final words, gentlemen, before we go. I want to start off with you, Adam, as we wrap up. Going forward, your expectation from the government and what ought to be done in the coming days for you?
Well, yeah, I think that the president set out a good way to go. First, do the forensic audit or assessment to be sure whether things are clean or not. I think that...
The audit, Adam says, is very necessary. But thank you also for joining us. Reverend David, let me give you the final thoughts briefly before we go. Any last comments?
Thank you. I think the Christian community, through the Christian Council, has made a clarion call on the president to lead a conversation on what to do about this project. And I can only say, let's see what the president says will happen after the forensic audit. Then the trustees and the leaders we have, they can discuss what the way forward is and see how Ghanaians and the government or people of goodwill can plug in and finish this project, whether it is scaled down or do as Architect David Adjaye is revealing to us today.
Yeah. We wait to see what the future holds for the National Cathedral project. Grateful for your time. Reverend Dr. Fred Adjaye joining us here on UPfront. Also to you, Adam Senanu, and to lawyer Wayo Ganamanche. That's all we have for you in this package of UPfront. I am Blessed Sogah. It's been a pleasure being with you. We'll see you again next time. Until then, log on to myjoyonline.com. More stories there for you.